Look at what's happened in Boston with the bombing and the search for the suspects and their ultimate either death or capture. First of all, the fact of the matter is they were Muslims. Now, for days leading up to this, they were talking about the potential of them being Tea Party patriots who were angry about paying taxes because it was on tax day. And they were angry about Waco 20 years ago. They were coming up with all these ridiculous possibilities that the Tea Party and the right-wingers were somehow involved in this terrorist act. When it became known that these people were Muslims, all of a sudden they didn't want to talk about the fact that they were Muslims and that they were radical Muslims. Now, Obama came out and he made a little speech and he talked about diversity, how we are a diverse nation and we can't use this as an excuse to label people, and the usual garbage they give him to read off his teleprompter. But the fact is that Obama and his buddies in the left for days and days were trying to blame the Tea Party for it. Michael Moore, MSNBC, CNN analyst, Wolf Blitzer on CNN, Chris Matthews theorized the bombing could be the result of protest against federal income taxes. All these people are just looking for a reason to vilify the right, who don't agree with them, and their open border policy, which is partially responsible for letting people like these two Muslims into the country. But they won't change their views of that at all. As a matter of fact, they'll just double down. Another aspect of this is the fact that in Massachusetts, gun ownership is practically illegal. It's basically a communist state. And when they came after the suspects on Thursday night, they basically declared martial law. The people cowered in their homes, and the people in Massachusetts, unarmed, would be unable to defend themselves if this supposed terrorist broke into their house. So there they were, cowering in their homes, letting the big bad police go after the terrorists, hiding under the bed. Well, who's committing the real terror here? You have the politicians like Obama coming out, making their speeches, telling us that we have to accept diversity, and this is the result of diversity. And then they take away your ability to protect yourself from the very people they let into the country. So you can see the kind of insanity that we find on the left. And this whole operation, of course, was used as a beta test for martial law. They want to see how people respond to this. They want to see how much they can get away with. And what better place to do that in than good old Massachusetts, where they've taken away the right to bear arms, turned them into sheep that they can push around and put into camps if it comes to that. They did the very same thing last February when there was a big snowstorm. They declared a state of emergency and said you can't leave your house, you can't go out on the streets. Why is it that the politicians are targeting Massachusetts for martial law? It's because they've taken away the guns, and the people are left-wingers, and they'll just look to government to save them. You're seeing the result of gun confiscation. Every tyrant, Hitler, Mao, Stalin, Pol Pot, Idi Amin, they always resort to gun confiscation first, and then they impose a police state where they feel like they can get away with anything. Now, Massachusetts is run by Duval Patrick, a little mini-me version of Obama. And no doubt, Obama is using him to see how much he can get away with on a national scale. So they're beta testing martial law in Massachusetts, whether it's a major snowstorm or whether it's a terrorist attack, because they know the people of Massachusetts won't stand up for their rights. And eventually it will go nationwide. America is about independence. America is about standing up against tyranny. And that's something we need to understand. Maybe an event like this will inspire even the liberals in Massachusetts to understand you need to have the right to bear arms. You need to have the right to defend yourself, not only from terrorists on the street, but also terrorists in positions of power. You should have seen the stormtroopers marching around in the suburbs of Boston with their guns out and their SWAT team gear and their tanks. They were having a great old time. After the last suspect was caught, the people came out in the streets and lined up and started applauding as all the police cars went by with their lights flashing and sirens blaring. They're sucking up to the people who are imposing tyranny on them. And that's what it was. At one point Thursday night, they were conducting door-to-door searches. Now, was that simply a knock on the door and asking a question? Or were they going inside the homes without the owner's permission? there had to be at least one person in the Boston area who said, he's not here, it's just me, and you don't have permission to search my house. What would happen then? What would these police do in a situation like that? Would they violate the person's rights to safety and security in their own homes and possessions? Their constitutional rights? I don't know. You see, that's one of the many things that the media is not covering in situations like this. So, like I said, it was a beta test for martial law being used on the sheeple in Massachusetts. And it's going to be used nationwide eventually. You can be sure that the people in Washington are watching closely. They want to see how much they can get away with. And they also like to use these Muslims, let them into the country and do their thing, because Muslims are anti-Christian, and they like to use them as attack dogs. They want to go after their number one enemy, which is conservative gun-owning Christians, as they see it. And they see Muslims as their friends, because they share the same mindset.